Couldn't agree with you more.
Something I'm not excited to see is No Man's Sky because it sucks. So let's talk about this.
Whoa! Will! Dang, well.
I'm just letting everyone know off the bat how I feel about this. So it's not like a clickbait title where you gotta wait 20 minutes to hear what I think. Now I'm just like, it sucks. I don't like it. It's not good. It's not a good game. You can just leave a like. Go ahead. You can go back to the other video. So let's talk about No Man's Sky. Daniel, I know you have not played it. I'm sure you have kept an eye on it with trailers and news, stuff like that.
I have. I'm not gonna lie. It really, it really piqued my interest when it first premiered.
Right, and it did the same thing for everyone, and then everyone played it, and it's garbage.
Well, hold on now, Will. Before we keep throwing out these generalizations, and then you get somebody triggered in the comments section, let's break this down. So,
all right. You
No
asked
Man's
me.
Sky is
You're the
announced.
therapist.
I'm the therapist.
I'm the patient. You
I need
work
to
me through
dissect your
this.
emotions.
You work me through this.
I got you. So let's break this down. So from the beginning, the hype just ends up running away with No Man's Sky.
Mm-hmm.
I think rightfully so. It's a bit of everyone's fault. The developers didn't really say to the publishers, "Hey, can we tone it down a bit?" And the hype just kept building and building, but also fans are running away with the hype. And so, what were your expectations going into playing this game? Because I think that can be key.
My expectations for this game were a exploration-based game, kind of a sense of genuine exploration, which is very, very hard to do in games. Rarely do you feel like a pioneer, an explorer, and it's an awesome feeling when it's done well. I guess this is ironically or unironically, however you want to look at it, I think the best feeling of discovery I've ever felt is Endless Ocean Blue World on the Nintendo Wii. That is a game based on scuba diving around the oceans. You scuba dive, you go down, and you swim, and you find new fish, you search in coral reefs, you find sunken treasure. That is... When I look at games that are supposed to make me feel like I'm discovering new things, I compare it to Endless Ocean Blue World. That's the best I've ever experienced it. So going into No Man's Sky by Hello Games on the PlayStation 4 and PC, my expectations were a story-driven, and maybe that's my fault for thinking it'd be story-driven game that encouraged you to explore, and you could go off the track as much as you wanted. You can explore as much as you want. You don't even have to do the story if you want. You can do that slowly as you wanted. A sense of isolation, but also that kind of slight hope that there is someone else out there and you'll come across someone else randomly.
Right.
And I was also very, very intrigued by the idea of having quintillions of planets already made, just waiting to be discovered. I was not expecting 10 out of 10 game of the year. I was expecting a solid game. Those were my expectations.
So now, just quickly and initially, just real brief, what are some things you like? And what was that moment you realized, what have I got myself into for $60?
Alright. Things I like. The way the game starts, I thought this is going to be the most genuine feeling of exploration I've ever felt in a video game. The way it starts, you spawn on a planet, and
your ship's broken.
You don't really know how to fix it. You don't know what all these parts are. You don't even know what your inventory is, what your tool is. You just know you need to walk around and figure it out as you go. And that, I mean, Minecraft kind of does this as well. Just the idea of you break this thing down. Oh, okay, now I can do this. And then you break that thing down. Oh, now that I can break that, I can go back to my ship and repair this. So it's like, you're learning as you go. It's like trial and error. and it was such an interesting way to start the game. I loved that. The beginning was so solid. I was so excited to get off the planet, go into space, and find the next planet. I thought the presentation was beautiful, and this is going to come up in very soon. I believe presentation and graphics are very different. So I think the presentation was great. The idea of looking at animals and plants and analyzing them and discovering new species, and then you transfer those species for like currency. I like that idea. I like the cave systems. I thought they were cool. I like the idea of having kind of these mysterious robots kind of hovering around, a monster and everything, but you didn't really know what they were there for. You didn't know if they were protecting the species or they were just trying to find you. Like it was just this kind of mystique almost, which is very appealing. I mean,
what was the moment?
I've only listed a few things, but those few things are so big that it's not like I'm saying like only 3 things were cool. These 3 things were huge mechanics of the game, and I loved them. The moment I realized this was not worth $60 in the slightest was when I discovered a new location, and it was the same building design I had seen maybe 9 times prior. So this is how Hello Games gets away with, we have all these planets, everything's unique, you discover everything as you go. They have this formula for an abandoned factory, this formula for a monolith where you find new alien languages, this formula for a trading post, this formula for a ship dock, and let's put it into a computer and it will just kind of throw it onto planets, just sprinkle it in there. So it's not like every time you find a factory it's unique, as it made something different. The history is different. You can find history about the aliens that used to be there. It's the same building every time. And that's when I realized this is not what, at least I believe, we were promised.
So now, to get into that's something I found was key, is that there was a lot of misconception. And I think it has to do with they weren't clear for the whole entire time. They delayed the game 3-4 times, but yet they never revealed any more information about the game. The game is shrouded in mystery. And so due to different, quotes being thrown around in different interviews, a lot of people were led to believe different things. Like, for example, you thought this might have been more of a story-driven game, that you could choose your own path or go off the path. I didn't know there was actually a story at all. I thought there was no story. It was just get to the center of the universe.
The reason I believe that it was story-driven wasn't that they said, here's the story, you spawn in this planet, and then you're contacted by this alien race, blah, 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 which that's not even the story. At least I don't know. It may be. I thought with how kind of cryptic they were with their messages, whenever people, like in interviews, they'd ask them, so what is the point? The way they answered that made it seem like there was a gripping story to be found on your own. And again, maybe that's my fault, but I think it's a little questionable in the marketing stance when your game really isn't story driven, but somehow people think it is. You know what I'm saying?
So now another thing that people misconstrued or had to draw their own conclusions on based on marketing was multiplayer. And this idea of being able to go out and run into different people. But then as it got closer to the release date, he's like, well, the possibility of that happened is 0. And then there's the big thing on Reddit about the 2 players who were streaming and out there on the same planet, same exact place. But then the entire situations were different. So it's like, are we on a different plane of existence when we're passing by other people?
And I actually pulled up on that topic. I have an article here with all the tweets that Sean Murray, who's the creative director at Hello Games, what he responded to that story of 2 players being at the same exact spot on the same planet. but the day-night cycle was different. They couldn't see each other. Whenever they made changes to the terrain, the other player couldn't see it. So basically, this promise of, yeah, it's possible, but, you know, planets are so big, there's so much, you won't find anyone else. Instead of them just saying, no, you can't find anyone else, they were trying to make it sound like it's possible. It's just very, very unlikely. So that happens, and Sean Murray tweets, quote, 2 players find each other on a stream in the first day. That has blown my mind. We want people to be aware they are in a shared universe. We added online features and some Easter eggs to create cool moments. We hope to see those happening, but too many of you are playing right now. More than we could have predicted. So, right there, again, with the it's like, okay, being cryptic and stuff, cute. Your game is out. People have paid money for this. Give us a straight answer. He's saying, oh, there's just so many people playing, man. The servers can't even handle showing another player looking at you.
They can't even register all this madness going on here.
Just say yes or no. Yes or no. Yeah. Can we see other players? Can we meet other players? Yes or no? And there's been no confirmation on that.
I thought he made a tweet or something about there's no multiplayer in the game.
They waived the PlayStation Plus requirement, which for all online games on PS4, you have to have PlayStation Plus. So they waived that, and ideally it was because technically it's online, but the chances of you seeing anyone else are so small, it's not really fair to make you pay for it. But something I've noticed, every time I play, and I verify that I'm connected to the internet, when I go into my start menu, at the bottom it says you are not connected to online services, which is not true, because I am connected. So I don't know if I'm reading too far into that, or if they're expecting you to not check your settings, and just, oh yeah, I'm not connected, whoops.
So now, but then it kind of, I've heard some people say it's like, well, I mean, what did you expect from this game? It was made by 16 people. You know, that sort of thing.
And I would counter that with, well, it's their fault for giving us reason to have these expectations.
And not squashing the big questions that lingered on.
Right.
That they knew they wouldn't have a definitive answer for.
Right, and you kind of mentioned it. I mean, maybe this was Sony's fault. Kind of them putting their name on this game, and Hello Games not saying, like, hey, Sony, like, chill. You're making this out to be something that it is not. Like, let us do our thing. We will follow through. We will release a solid game. But you're making promises we can't keep. Maybe it's Sony's fault. Maybe it's the developer's fault. Either way.
Maybe it's the fans' fault. But either way, I think everyone had a part.
Exactly.
In building up the hype train that just got way out of hand.
Right.
But still, it doesn't make up for the content itself. So we'll continue on with what drove it home for you? Were like, I can't do this. This is bad. This is terrible. What gave you to this point that it sucks?
So, number one, when I was playing for 45 minutes right before we recorded, the game crashed 3 times. That's a big one.
That can be an issue.
That's a very big one.
Be an issue.
Number 2, the pop-in on the graphics is the worst I've ever seen on any game. And I mean any game. I've been playing games however long, however many systems, however many games. This is the worst graphical pop-in I've ever seen. It is bad, and it is very, very noticeable. On that topic, again, where presentation and graphics are different. Presentation is beautiful. You feel like you're on an alien planet. The graphics are washed out colors. They're grainy when you get up close. It's like when you're too far, it looks like shit, and when you're too close, it looks like shit. But even when you're just right, it's still questionable. Like it's never like.
Is it crap? I can't.
It's like never. There's no like sweet spot. Like.
Yeah.
The flying mechanics, and I mean personally, I hate ship mechanics in all games. Like Ratchet and Clank, I love those games, but they all insist on having aerial combat, and I hate it. I don't feel like the controls are ever done well. These controls are too floaty. It's too easy to, while you're doing a barrel roll, to lose your track and start going the other way without even realizing it. When you start getting in combat in space, the other ships are going so much faster than you. By the time you turn around to shoot a ship, they're behind you, so you can never hit them. Every planet I've gone to, I've discovered like 10 new animal species, but really it's the same species I've already discovered with different colors. Same thing with the plants. all the trailers released had these giant dinosaurs with these long necks and just like just massive creatures, and I've seen none of that. Now Sean Murray has said, I'm watching streams and no one has found the big monsters, but they're in there. I'm starting to not believe that, Mr. Murray, with your track record lately. The game, I heard this metaphor referring to Skyrim, which I disagree with Skyrim, but I think it applies entirely with No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is as wide as an ocean, but as shallow as a puddle. There's a million things to do, or there's a million planets to go to, but 2 or 3 of the same things to do on every planet.
Right.
That is not worth $60. That is where my issue lies with this game. If this was a $20 game, I was saying like a few days ago, okay, if it was $30, I'd buy it. If it was $20, I probably wouldn't be complaining about this game at all. But because I paid full price, Sony's name is on this, I have a lot to complain about. I think it's justified. Now, some people are saying that this is a game that is only tailored to one niche group. And that's totally fair. Plenty of games do that. I'm a fan of some of them. Totally fair. That's not how the game was marketed, and I don't believe that's how the game is intended. I believe this game is meant to have mass appeal, and it doesn't deliver. It doesn't have mass appeal because it's not that great.
So now, one thing is that there's a lot of people who share your opinion, but at the same time, there's some people who are just in love and engrossed with this game.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure people watching this video right now are going to feel the complete opposite, because with the randomly generated game comes entirely different experiences. Like my friend Peter, he got the game day one. He was excited, and he was like, "Yeah, the game's not really that deep when it comes to, the content that's in there and all that you can do." But he's like, I work X amount of hours. I work a lot of time, and he's like, there's nothing better than coming home, just relaxing, and then just exploring for hours.
Right.
And so there's that
I wish I shared that, but working, coming home, and exploring the same planet with a different color scheme is not entertaining.
Because that's another thing, is that some people are running into the same repetition of planets. Some people, when they would go into an entire solar system and none of the planets would have any life.
Right.
They'd just be barren wastelands with just high wind and all these things. And so, but other people, we got all these different things. We got Fupa monsters and, and all these amazing things. And so, maybe, because when I look at this game, this is such an ambitious idea that Ubisoft wouldn't even try to tackle,
right.
let alone a group of 20 people. And I feel like the ambition doesn't really live up to the final product in certain ways. I think it just all depends on the randomly generated experience that you get.
Right. And
that can possibly affect it. But you're talking about your points are major points that apply to everyone's playthrough. And that's why I think it's critical about it.
Right. And I think now I understand that technically, or from a technical standpoint, Minecraft and No Man's Sky is different. Minecraft is procedurally generated. No Man's Sky is finite. It's just a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot of finite to explore. Mm-hmm. But with this idea of, some players have this experience, some players have others, same thing happens with Minecraft, but, however many hundreds of millions copies sold, those different experiences are still all 90% positive. Everyone's world is different when they spawn in, but they still manage to spend hours mining or building a fortress or raising a farm. Like, they find their ways to make this world their own and explore it and find everything there is to be found. But then you look at No Man's Sky, and I refuse to accept that it is excusable to allow this game to just say, well, it's a different opinion, different experience for everyone. Well, Hello Games, like, everyone paid $60.
Hello. Everyone paid $60.
Everyone paid $60. You can't just say, well, sorry, every planet you went to doesn't have anything on it. This person had a lot of stuff on their planets. It's okay that you guys paid the same price. And maybe I'm being too critical, but I think it's the price point that gets me on this game. It's not worth $60.
So now, how much time have you put into the game as well?
I believe I've only put in like 8 to 10, and that's not because I've been like.
Because most people say around the 4 or 5 hour mark is where the game will either click or not for you.
And Daniel, that's where I just want to emphasize that I have given this game so many chances. At that 4 or 5 hour mark, I probably started getting bored and recognizing the repetition. But I wanted this to be such a good game, and I wanted to find the new things to do in it, and I never found it. I kept trying, but I never found it.
Let's go hot.
And I don't even want to touch on the PC port. That's a whole nother issue.
That's a debacle.
People are equating the PC port to like when Arkham Knight was ported to the PC.
Ooh, that's bad.
They're saying like, I mean, the frame rate's garbage. Just graphics are just not up to par. It's just stuttering. Like, the game is just not made for PC, and it should have never been ported in the stance that it is.
Oh, that's just very unfortunate to hear.
This game it could have been so much, and I just realized this when you look at the cover of the game. The cover looks. There's more to do in this cover than there is in the game. Like, looking at this cover and you see the ships flying by and this kind of open lake and this cool plants and these kind of rhino buffalo looking creatures, like, that looks awesome. I didn't have any of this in my game.
Yeah, because it's just, yeah, you're right. The argument of, well, that's just your playthrough in the randomly chat. Well, that's not fair.
Right.
That you paid the same amount of price, but you don't get the quality experience. What, you just chalk it up to, well, God didn't give you enough luck when you were born, so that's just what you got for this game. It's just like, well, that's not
right.
That's not fair for anyone.
How about you know, if you want to go by that excuse, you release tiers. You know, if you pay $20, you have a 1 in 500 chance of getting animals and plants on your planet. But if you pay a full $60, you're guaranteed to have things to do. That's how this argument of, well, it's just different experiences. That's how I look at it. Okay, different experiences. If one's good, one's bad, change the price. There's no. When the experiences are different, that's totally cool. Again, Minecraft, same thing. When the experiences are either add value or devalue this game, that's not good. That's bad. That's a very bad thing.
Right.
I got this game day one, dude. I was ready to play this game for hours into the night. And after 3 or 4 hours of the first day, I was tired. I was sleepy. I was getting bored. I mean, another thing I want to touch on is like the aliens that you come across are just so bland. It's the same models with different colors. I don't know. This game was not. The game was No Man's Sky is not $60. It is not $50. It's not $40. It's hard to argue $30. I think $20 is a reasonable price. I think the developers dropped the ball on this one. I'm gonna look at the developers for this. I think the majority of this, yeah, we put a lot of hype into this as fans, but put the hype aside. The developers make the content, and the content is not what we were promised. I think that's all I gotta say. I'm disappointed.
That's deep, man. That was really deep. Like, I felt that. I felt that from all the way over here.
I mean, it sucks. Like, this concept is just... It's so innovative. And I guess such is life. You know, the first time you try something so innovative, you're going to fail, but then the next guy's going to learn from you and do it right. And maybe that's the case.
Do you think there's, like, anything they can do to save the game in an update? Or is there any improvements, do you think, that can at least help you carry on and get to the center of the universe?
Yeah, fucking give me things to do. Add... Make an update.
And to be clear, like, there's no, like, quest or anything. Like, you go to a station,
I
and
mean,
this guy's like, you give me these money for parts.
Let me think about... So you get off the first planet, and then there's a marker put on the closest planet that says you need to go here to get something, and you get that, and then you leave the planet, and then there's another planet with the marker that says you have to do the same thing that you just did, so you go to that, and then when you leave that third planet, there's like a marker, at least for me, that said like, help us, from this kind of like person that you've been getting dialogue from. Then you go there, and there's not really anything to do. So, I mean, I guess in the very beginning there are kind of objectives that move you along, but other than advancing you, there's no like substance or purpose to those objectives.
That's very unfortunate. Because I mean, some people like the GameSpot review, he gave it an 8, and one of the things he I know. Yeah, okay. Now, one of the things he said was, one of the things he found interesting was when he had those moments of he was like, why am I playing this game? Why am I exploring an infinite universe? He would get the quest about Atlas and trying to find, going back to the quest of trying to find the center of the universe, and how the game could speak to you on a philosophical level, on a much higher level about exploration and then the amount of time you have in life and all that stuff. Do you think the game really does actually explore any of those things, or the idea of what it means to be an adventurer and how that goes about?
I mean, the way they address kind of coming across artifacts of ancient civilizations and things that used to be, I think they do kind of handle that well. The idea of just kind of finding these monoliths that have, where when you touch them, you learn the language of an alien race, and you can kind of, like, there's this idea that there's spirits there that are kind of watching you, and they give you a test, and depending on how you respond is how they treat you. So I mean, that's kind of interesting. And with the languages you learn, when you come across alien NPCs, because they speak to you in their alien language, but the more you learn, the more words translate from alien to like your tongue, like so you can see what they're reading. Yeah. So instead of, whereas the first time you meet an alien, it may say blah 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 blah. Now after you learn a word, it'll say blah 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 space blah blah blah. So you kind of piece it together as you go.
Right.
That's interesting. I mean, in Skyrim, when it came to like learning the tongue of like the Dovahkiin, like the Dragonborn, I always thought that was cool. Going up to those walls and like absorbing the words and learning new shouts. I really like that mechanic. So I guess that's kind of why I like the monolith mechanic and learning alien languages. But as far as I've seen in the time I've put into the game, I haven't really seen any worthwhile application for it.
Well, thank you so much for putting in the time and letting us know your thoughts about No Man's Sky.
I'm taking it back.
Really?
Yeah, I'm exchanging this game, dude. The receipt says if you buy something new and you can exchange it within 30 days for a like item. So I'm assuming that means equal price. I don't want this game. I want my money back. I do not want to pay $60 for this game. If it's 10,
so you're not gonna wait it out and wait for them to see what they'll do in an update or anything
no,
like that? Just
no, that's not how gaming works. That's accepted nowadays. That put out a game that's broken and then wait a week and then now it's worth buying. No, put out a game that's ready to play. Put out a game that's finished. Put out a game that encourages you to keep playing, keeps your attention, and it motivates you to continue. Don't put out a game that's half cooked, and then 2 weeks later the cooking is done. It's a beautiful cake. No, release the cake off the bat.
Right.
I don't know why that's the accepted model of gaming nowadays. Every game, day 1 patch, or day 2 patch, week 1 patch. Just release a game that works. Release a game that's finished. That's all I want.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that answers the question of will No Man's Sky be a disappointment that we had 2 weeks ago. Thank you guys so much for listening to Will's review.
Thank you.